Hey everybody, today is September 1st, 2023. I'm Gene.
And I'm Zane.
And you're hanging with Uncle. Yeah, Gene. So we have a special guest on the show, yes. My son is visiting. He is in the military. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to mention any branches or job names, but
that's all to him.
Yeah, he's in town hanging out, and I love my son. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. The last time I saw you was when you came and did the show with us last time.
That was exactly that. I was wondering when we did that show that one time. That was a while ago, wasn't it?
I want to say that was episode
like
long time ago.
Yeah, it was early in the shows, I believe.
I mean, if you made gumbo more, maybe I'd show up.
Yeah,
it's in the freezer.
I would say, yeah. It was big.
So anyway, before we get started, because I think we kind of have a special show, only because my son is here, and we're just going to hang out and shoot the shit today.
It's not going to be really formal, like uncle style or anything like that. We're just kind of chilling. And
that's all we're doing.
If anybody wanted to join the conversation, you're more than welcome to. We're going to be in the chats here. I'm going to hop in on my phone right now and pay attention.
So, before we get started, please hit that subscribe button.
Yes.
We're trying to grow our channel, and we need as many subscribers as that are out there. And also hit that thumbs up, hit that like button. It helps us spread the message out there.
And also hit the bell for notifications whenever we go live in the future.
Yeah.
That's important. And also, don't forget, it's Friday, it's the 1st. Make sure you pay yourself.
Pay yourself.
Yes. Pay yourself. Thank you.
Throw the pay yourself in there. It's also the first day of September. September, we're at this is the fourth quarter of the year, almost?
It starts the fourth quarter, but more importantly,
end of the third.
I've just from my own prior military experience, this is the last month of the fiscal year. Because, I guess, so this is kind of important. Remember, we're talking about another pending looming government shutdown this month sometime, right?
Sometime, yeah.
But the military gets funded October 1st. That's when the fiscal year starts for the military.
For the military.
Right. So, dumbasses like Margarine Trader Green who want to hold up funding for the government and our national security over... Oh, we got to impeach Biden, even though he hasn't done anything. We still got to impeach him.
She's a record holder for dumbass of the
week, right?
For a reason.
She's happens to be in the state where you're currently. My nose is itching.
Yeah, I would say you're having a personal attack right now. The body's attacking.
Right. She's in the state you're currently stationed at, man. Do you have any input or insight onto what's being said on the streets out there?
All I can say is that, for those of my brothers and sisters that are serving in the armed forces, we still get paid when the government shuts down. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, to our politicians who hopefully all of my brothers and sisters in arms are voting for or against, keep doing that and just make sure that whomever your vote does go towards is someone that is not looking to shut down the budget or the government for those that aren't in the service who potentially takes money out of their pocket and doesn't help them get paid. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, that's like paying them before shutdown is obviously the most important thing. We need to have our defenses still. We need to have our guys paid. Okay, so as simple as that. Like we all know how important that is. Like money's money.
Here's the thing. All right. There is plenty of money in the budget in the United States to pay for national defense, to pay for all of the other programs that the United States offers, like education, emergency rooms, our interstate highway system, public safety, police and fire. And let's also not remember, again, one of the biggest things that we pay for, that all of us contribute to our taxes to pay for, is our national defense.
Right there.
So
it's like the angles, man. It's hard to.
There we go. I don't have to shoot anymore.
It's like looking in a mirror. I'm not driving, officer, I swear. No, but yeah. I mean, it's one of the most important things that we have in our budget. Honestly, I'm reiterating just what I said. It's something that we need to have continuously active in case we do have a shutdown, which, like you said, we're coming up on, where the less important things might close down, but always having a defense is the greatest.
And I think, just me, I think they honestly try and keep us scared of the possible shutdown. But, with Kevin McCarthy being the Speaker of the House, that's a wild card because, and this is what a lot of people don't realize, it's not a bill because Republicans passed it that make it a Republican bill. Any bill passed in Congress is a bill that benefits the people of the United States, no matter what your voting preference is. So, for example, our interstate highway systems, right? If I want to jump on the freeway and drive to California, who pays for that? Our tax dollars do.
Yeah.
And if I'm a Democrat or Republican, it
benefits
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everybody benefits from it. So
Exactly.
that's one thing I would like to see is people knock that mentality off about, well, this is a Democrat bill. Oh, this is a Republican bill. I mean, just shut the fuck up.
It's basically. So, just a follow-up question: why are we in this situation in the first place? Again, we're running up on this situation of having a possible shutdown again. Why is this happening? Again, I remember this happening fifth grade. We're gonna have the government shut down, and we joked about it. Oh my gosh!
Honestly,
the world's gonna explode. It really.
It's because
it's happened before. Yeah.
I'll say so. A term of Congress, at least in the House of Representatives, is every 2 years. So again, if you think, oh my God, here comes another election. Every 2 years, we're voting for our representatives in Washington, D.C.
Right.
So if I'm Speaker of the House and I'm going to say we're going to pass this bill to last for 10 years, and now you're the next Speaker of the House, are you bound by what I did? That's Marbury versus Madison. That's the whole cornerstone of judicial review, to make sure what we're doing is constitutional. And is it constitutional for me to put the burdens of my budget on you? So technically, that's why every 2 years the budget is up for renewal, because every 2 years we have a new Congress.
So why are we facing a shutdown though this time? Is it
Again,
every
because-
time because it's we have to renew as a shutdown? Is that what they basically call it, or
Well-
is it a crisis? So we have to do some budget checks real quick and do some moves to avoid a shutdown? Is that what we're doing incorrectly? How do we change that from ever happening in the future? Because I honestly wouldn't want to face a shutdown ever again. You know what I mean? That would be kind of silly.
So this
Sounds
is
like
what
we're
creates a
saying.
shutdown.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, idiots like Margarine Trader Green or Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama. I'm not going to vote for any budget unless we remove this abortions from the military. Or Margarine Trader, again, we're talking about I'm not going to vote to do anything unless we impeach Biden. You're holding the government hostage over your personal beliefs that are totally 100% fabricated because, oh my God, we have to impeach Biden. For what? Bring your proof.
His son.
Bring your proof or shut up. But it's that kind of stupidity. Or back in the day, it was like, we're going to shut the government down. When there's 13 days the government was shut down, nothing was funded because Republicans wanted to take away your right to have health care.
So it's just their personal preference of, I'm not getting what I want, so I'm going to delay the government.
Yeah,
basically.
they're crybabies.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is, and why we have government shutdown hysteria every 2 years.
Going back to that team mentality, my team lost, so I'm going to be sour about it. Right?
Yeah.
I love that. And when really the whole team should be working together for one goal. Again, like you were saying earlier, improvement of our society.
Yeah.
Nonsense like that. That's interesting.
Here's something that's important that I think I not to shut down the topic of,
Go ahead.
because we both like to golf.
Yeah.
This dude, I think I'm pointing straight now.
Yeah.
this dude lives by the Masters.
Oh, nice. Augusta.
Yeah. So,
Beautiful course.
have you at least gotten to see the perimeter of the course, son?
So great point. Where I'm located, there's a little bit of opportunity, short drive away to go down. And so just like the NFL, because that's current, right?
Yeah.
So they have a preseason, so there's a pre-tournament in golf. So they go down, they warm up. You know, you can get out on the course, have an opportunity to have like some autograph signed or get some memorabilia from the store there. You know, shout out to all the traffic jams.
Yeah, I'd say that has to be crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you know, there's some small airports in the area, so people will fly in. You know, restaurants are always packed. It's a great time, but it's a great way to stimulate the economy.
Yeah,
right?
especially in that area.
Because you have a lot of businesses that depend upon stuff like that. So just like with military bases, you know, you have some small towns who, without military bases, wouldn't be able to get that funding, which creates jobs, which has job security. So going, just to tie it all in, right, when we talk about shutting down government or stopping funding of certain things, although I am not a politician and I'm not involved in any of those budget conversations, I will say that, you know, if you aren't funding the people that are working at those installations, or you're not paying for those roads, you know, shout out to the old school Teamsters, if you buy it, a truck brought it there, right? You know, that's one of those things where without these highways, without renewing our interstate highways, the bridges, the railroads, things of that nature, it's going to be difficult to get those supplies. So infrastructure is important.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I don't mean to sound like a politician, but I would just love to say that, you know, without the local infrastructure that we have here, getting supplies to and from potentially leads to issues like the shortage of eggs. What was that? That was like 6 months ago, maybe?
Yeah.
Man, it was crazy how expensive eggs were. But no, see, I want your opinion like this because, again, the reason we do this show is because, number one, like for me, I'm tired of watching the news and having these pundits that sit behind a desk say, this is how the American people feel, when nobody's addressed how I feel.
Exactly.
So
It's
I'm
that
glad for you
conversation.
to express that.
Yeah.
So
We want everybody's point and opinion.
all our voices matter. All of us pay taxes. All of our voices matter, and they need to listen to us.
And we try
100%.
to reflect what a conversation is here on Uncle, you know, where we say something and then the other receives that and responds like a normal conversation. That's how our government should go, you know.
And I think it's a great thing that you guys do with this show because, you know, although we have a little bit of the old school, some of the new school, right? And we bridge that gap. There's some information. I love the dialogue that you guys have. You know, if someone has a question, then we can refer to something, or you know, we always have these things on our phones called, you know, mini computers, cell phones, where we can just quickly Google something.
Right.
But still, you know, it's important to stay educated. It's important to know what's going on in your community. It's important to know, even though you may not like one particular thing about a specific candidate, but overall, you support what you believe in. And you know, I think that's what's important because in 2008, when I was able to first vote, you know, some people say, well, I just didn't like what this particular candidate stood on, so I didn't vote for him at all. And it's like, okay, well, what specifically, just me being a young person, having gone door to door, trying just to understand more about the political process, I was simply asking, like, hey, well, you know, what was it particularly about this candidate, if you don't mind sharing, that you didn't care for? Well, you know, and it was nothing that they could pinpoint specifically. It wasn't, oh, you know, I didn't like the way that they stood on, you know, abortion, just hypothetically, right? Or, you know, I didn't care for their stance on education, or, you know, I'm a college student who has student loan debt, and I didn't agree with their stance on that. It was just kind of like, well, you know, I didn't know who to vote for. I didn't really like the way they carried themselves. And, you know, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that's a valid reason to say, hey, I'm not going to get out and vote. You know, there's always those that feel like, well, my vote isn't important. And just going back to what you two were just talking about a second ago, what's important is that every person's voice matters, no matter how big or small. Whether you come from a loving family or a broken home, right? None of that matters. Your financial situation doesn't matter. Your education system doesn't matter, or educational background doesn't matter. What does matter is that your voice gets stated for. So just because someone won the majority of a vote in some state or some district, you know, please make sure you speak up and let them know, like, hey, I do disagree with this. You know, I'm not saying you have to go storm a building or riot or anything like that, but simple things, writing an email, writing a letter, you know, but again, we have to be open. We have to have dialogue, right? I think what's important is you can't just say, hey, this is my belief and I stand on this and screw you if you disagree with me. I think what's important is, hey, you know what? We all have different life experiences. And I have a friend who I talk with, and we don't agree eye to eye on a majority of things. But I say, hey, you know what? You may have some sort of viewpoint because you grew up in a different state in a different generation that I don't understand. So please let me hear where you're coming from.
Mhm.
And then based off of that information, you can have a dialogue. You can have that back and forth. So all I would say is just remain open and make sure that you have that forward line of thinking. And just a caveat, we did talk about politicians, and I just wanted to say that, you know, when it comes to when you're trying to make sure that you're voting for the right person, you know, just do your research.
Mhm.
Don't just Google one article and say, oh, well, this is factual. You know, go through, read 3, read 5, go to different sources. Whether you believe it's fake news or real news, you know, go to all the different media sources, outlets, and then make an educated decision off of your own experiences in life. So that's where I stand
Now,
on that.
it's a popular question on our show here, and I want to ask you this one. I'm sure you know a question might be coming.
Okay.
What do you think would help lazier Americans get that resource? So there are definitely people, I'm sure you're aware, and there are people out there who are just not going to go for that information. They're not going to go and seek that information. What do you think would make it easier, accessibility wise, for the average American?
For the average American, I think what's important is going door to door.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, in previous elections, what has happened is someone coming to your door and saying, hey, you know, I'm here on behalf of this particular party, whether you agree with it or not. Have you educated yourself on this? Yes, great. No, perfect. Here's a pamphlet, right? You know, if you'd love to come down to some rally, some seminar, here's a mobile app. You know, here's a website. This has been vetted through whichever party, or even if it's nonpartisan, right? And just saying, you know, hey, you know what? Why don't you just hop on C-SPAN and just listen to what's being voted for on the floor? Because you know, again, these are things that, you know, it's not. There's no one commentating on it. You're getting it real raw and relevant.
So I pulled up an article from NPR,
Okay.
National Public Radio, and it just you're talking about how important it is to vote and have your voice heard. Even though 80 million voters cast their vote in the 2020 elections in 2022. That's still only 67% of voters. That's 1/3 of voters that have not voted. So, if you think your vote doesn't count, and that's why you don't vote, and you're part of that 1/3, and you want to know, well, what difference does it make if I vote or not? You know, if you want a different outcome, then you have to do something different, and it's too easy
You gotta
to
change.
vote.
Yeah,
You know, you can't expect to sit on the sidelines and hope something's going to change.
You know,
It won't happen.
something that came up. There was that new song, that new popular country song, Richmond, North of Richmond, right, or something like that. You guys ever heard of that?
Maybe.
Oh, is it that Jason Aldean song? I think.
No, that's the one where he's singing in front of a church. There's some guy in his backyard who's saying on a banjo about the men north of Richmond, where like Richmond is obviously like a line, north-south kind of deal.
Those are the
like,
Union soldiers.
Yeah, people were taking that into that account, where he's kind of like backing up, like, whoa, for a second, it's really not meant to be that way. Like, his stance in falling back on this was him not necessarily being Republican or Democrat. People have interviewed him and talked about it and said, no, I vote for what I feel necessarily, not for what party.
Right.
Exactly. So he brought that out, and then people just were like, okay, cool. And then the song is like not that stance anymore. It's like, okay, cool. It's like talking about the rich people who are against the people who the working class, which is what he's trying to talk about, but he makes some really false statements. It's a weird thing. But do you think America would be better off if we had more of that kind of mentality, that kind of stance, where more people felt that they don't have to be a part of a team? Or for like Gene, because we haven't asked him that question. I think I've asked you maybe before.
Well, you know, my voter registration is no party preference. So I don't vote by political party. I look at the issues and how the candidate feels on it. That's just me. If you want to, take that question, son.
Yeah, no, I'd be more than happy to. I think it just kind of goes back to what we've all kind of said and danced around and have kind of mentioned a second ago. Let's be honest, as people, right, from grade school to like kindergarten through college, no one has ever agreed 100% of the time on 100% of the issues.
No.
So if you can find someone that says, hey, you know what? I don't agree with your stance, but you know what? The majority of what you believe in, I can support. I think that's important because when you, in my personal opinion, when you find someone who's like, well, I just go for this party because, well, that's what my family has done.
That's a sheep herd mentality.
And in those words, it's just kind of like, hey, great, you've picked a team and you're sticking with it. Like, nothing wrong with that.
Like
but at the
Cowboys
same
guys.
time, teams change. When you look at the history of the Democratic and the Republican Party, and you see one used to be for slavery, one wasn't, and so all of those things factor in. But even though there are multiple parties now, it's not just the two of them. I just think the biggest piece of information that I would want to relay to any person, whether they're getting ready to vote for the first time or they voted previously, is just remember that you're never going to agree with anyone 100% of the time. And if that one particular issue or that handful of issues that you do disagree with someone is that hill that you're going to die on, and you just don't want to vote for that person, then that's completely your right. But I don't think you should belittle someone else who said, well, hey, I went ahead and I voiced this with a valid reason, not just because it's a party.
Yeah, it's not because their ideals are bad necessarily. Like, in a perfect world back before I was an adult and learned that our world is corrupt and crazy, I thought that votes was like, okay, so we're voting for like what's more important, and then like everything kind of falls in line and like what's important to hit and get done by the end of the presidency. And then when the president comes back in, we vote for them to like, okay, what did we not get done, this, that, and the third, this is the more popular vote now, this is the more important things. It's not, I wish it was still kind of that approach in my mind, because if it were that way and people were to vote on like issues, not necessarily like instead of just people, they voted on issues, then we would know what America wants to have corrected. What's the number one issue we want to have fixed? Number 2, 3, 4, get that fixed. All right, priorities change, years later, what's the next focus? Like, what gets us forward? That's what I thought voting would do.
Well, that's what it should be. And again,
It really is,
for
isn't it?
those
Like-
who have listened to this show, you're going to hear me repeat this again, but that's why I'm registered no party preference, right? So just again,
Because you're voting on the issue.
I'm looking at the issue, right? So we had a Senate race, Mark Kelly versus Blake Masters, right? I'm listening to Blake Masters talking about cutting Social Security, taking women's rights away, and I'm like, well,
Obviously,
I
that's something to vote
I don't think those are good issues. And I look at Mark Kelly, and Mark Kelly wants to support Social Security and support women's rights, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with a political party. This guy is making common sense. That's who I'm going to vote for. And if more people adopted that theory instead of, like you said, something with that sheep or that herd mentality, like, oh, I could never vote Democrat. No, I'm going to vote Republican. But I'm so pissed off that they want to take my
Social Security away.
Roe and Wade away, that I want to put a ballot measure on there to codify Roe versus Wade. And they've done that in 3 totally red states, Kansas, Kentucky, and Ohio. And my question is, if you took a step back, opened your mind, and got off that team mentality way of thinking, you would have voted for the candidate that never was trying to take those rights away from you. It has nothing to do with a party. Wake up.
Or those that think like, I don't like this blue or this red person, so I'm going to vote for this particular rapper because I think it would be funny if they were to win. And hey, listen, who am I to say that you can't do that, right? But we need to be realistic with things that we are hoping to get accomplished, and that's all I'm going to say on that. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to move into our dumbass of the week.
Yeah, we've had a
Son,
good
you
show.
want to go first?
Well, before, if you don't mind, just want to interject, just because it is football season.
It
is. You guys have fantasy teams, or
Yeah.
Dad, you're going to lose this year, by the way.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
I do have
Regardless of what Yahoo says, right?
I do have a fantasy league that I do with my family that's coming up. We're actually doing our draft on Memorial Day, so we're going to start it then.
You mean Labor Day?
Labor Day, is that what it is? Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Monday. Holidays, I don't normally keep track of the calendar like that. Labor Day. Okay. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we got one with some Army buds, and what we did is instead of playing for money, we played for PT. So what we did was the guy with the highest PT score got to choose first. And then the guy that finishes last, he's going to have to do some additional PT. So, it's just a fun way, make sure you're staying physically fit. You're paying yourself, right, because it's Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So just things like that, it's all about trying to push forward and just get better as a person. Even for myself as a service member, we have to stay physically fit because losing is not an option for us.
See, I'm gonna, I don't know if I should say something. I'll say before when we're off the air.
Okay.
But don't bet against this guy. Don't do it because you're. Yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up at this point. All right. You want to go ahead?
Mine's not a crazy dumbass story or anything like that. I thought it was an interesting, funny one that a dumb person did something. I don't know. There's a bull, longhorn bull, pretty big animal, right?
Oh,
pretty. Yeah, you know, right? Yeah. A man decided to put it in his passenger seat. I guess it's a celebrity in the local area, and that, whatever. Sure, yeah. If you want to drive a longhorn bull on the freeway, but that's not safe.
No,
obviously. So they pulled him over, told him, "Yo, this is not safe," and then they just told him to go back home. So he went back home. But like, why would you do that? Check it out. It's crazy if you haven't heard of it. But like it's literally in like an old Volkswagen. It looks like.
Well, the
an Oldsmobile, it looks
steer
like.
is so big, it makes that car look like a Volkswagen.
It may be. Maybe it is a large car. Holy crap. It's crazy. It's literally on the other half of the car. Like, it's insane. Yeah. But anyways, check that out. I thought that was a dumb ass story to talk about. That's why it fit along with it. So,
well, so I got to preface, this a little bit, but well, I'll just go ahead and say it. We got another repeat offender.
Okay.
And so my dumbass of the week is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Oh, man.
Okay, so we just had the hurricane go through and, make landfall there, hurricane, a Category 4, and the devastation it caused. And we all know that, right?
Yes.
But what this dumbass did, because, again, he's going to own the libs, and he's playing partisan politics. He's not trying to govern for the people of Florida. He denied over $350 million in government aid. Government aid to support retrofitting, with more energy efficient, utilities and things like that. As part of the infrastructure, plan or that Biden passed, Yeah, DeSantis is like, no, I don't care about my citizens of Florida. We're not taking any government money here at all.
That's crazy. I
mean, why do these dumbasses vote for somebody that's overtly trying to screw them over and governing against their own best interest? You guys are dumbasses for voting for him.
They all know now not to, and they actually are not happy about him whatsoever. There's been a few interviews I see going on in Florida talking about how the people are not happy that he's again, his politics, how he's running it. He's not focusing on Florida. He's focusing on presidential stuff, which he's lacking at.
He doesn't care about Florida. He's term limited, so he can't run for governor again anyway. He does not care about Florida, and rejecting over $350 million in government aid to help you just shows who he's governing for, and it's not you. So if you live in the state of Florida, you're a resident, you're a dumbass for voting Ron DeSantis in, because those are the decisions that he's making.
Well, I'll say mine is, okay. So it's to a couple of people. Those that are pushing and passing legislation stating that in our education system we should not educate the future generations in certain matters of history. And what I mean by that are those that are saying that, hey, certain cultural,
say it, Black history.
Hey, so what I'm building up towards is saying that whether it's Black history, whatever, color preference, whatever the political agenda is everyone's history is important. And somebody once said, and I don't know who, so I won't quote them, but if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Okay? So we need to teach these to people and not say, we don't want to focus on the negatives and, hope that someone doesn't repeat it. No, it's not about that, because in my personal experience, I've had people say, well, slavery was 400 years ago. Get over it. Yeah, well, that's not something you get over. That's not something displacing families and cutting off cultural experiences and heritage. So anyone that's going around saying that we need to stop the spread and education of the different, particularly Black history, I don't think that they need to be choosing any form of educational information that needs to be taught to the generations.
Whitewashing it for sure.
So again,
Or,
this.
I'm sorry for cutting you off, or pushing young children to learn things that
Are not true.
not true, or they shouldn't be learning about in today's climate. So,
Yeah. Well, to finish on DeSatan, he made this comment while I was on vacation and we missed the show, so I didn't cover it that week. But his dumbass comment how Black people benefited from slavery. To me, if you believe that, then that means you believe 6 million Jews benefited from the Holocaust because they got to lose a bunch of weight and go meet God early.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. No. Yeah, that statement was pretty bad, and honestly, that was the start of his downfall, anyways. But
Yeah, he is. But anyway, that's about all the time we have for this show. Anyway,
Thank you for having us.
thank you,
coming on
Gene.
the show.
Thank you for coming, welcoming us.
Yeah.
And just kind of, funny. I think this is funny. It looks like because he's sitting behind us, he's really small, but
Yeah.
he's really the biggest dude in the room. He dwarfs me by about 3 inches. Okay.
Yeah, he's tall. He's a tall guy. He's a pretty tall guy. Don't want to mess with him.
Thank you again for joining us this week,
Yes,
son.
thank you.
Love
not
you
a
very
problem.
much.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having me. I appreciate you guys. It's always entertaining being able to spread the word
Awesome.
and the positive message that you guys
Yes.
are spreading, especially paying yourself first. So make sure
Yes,
you do
always.
it.
Thank you.
You are a Bill. You are
All
important
right.
too.
Well, I'm Gene,
I'm Zane.
and you've been hanging with Uncle.
We'll see y'all next time.
We'll see you next week.